There's something about decay and rust in tech based networks. It's not unlike industrial facilities. The decay starts small, almost unnoticeable to all but the most observant. There will be reports of a little bit of oxidation here and there, and there will be debate about whether it's deserving of attention or alarm. This debate will give way to inaction. Like boiling frogs, the parties involved won't do anything because it creeps up on them so slowly. But soon the rust has enveloped the whole facility, and it's too late to do anything. Our biggest competitor currently faces this situation, and it's over something that Cardano's probably already solved. Ready? Let's go! Today, we are going to discuss the Ethereum network slowly being ground down by miner extractable value and front running, the recent trends in crypto related to copying and mimicry, Sam Bankman-Fried hinting that some exchanges are already secretly insolvent, and more progress toward Vasil. Whether this just looks like a sci-fi dystopia to you or this is the kind of place where you actually do your fiat mining, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Today, Jarek of Maladex made a very interesting post. He said, real-time visualization of how much everyone on Cardano would benefit from a fee market. And then he gave this link. If you understand what miner extractable value or MEV is, you already knew what this link was going to be. When we come over here to zeromev.org, we find that they're running an hour by hour tally of the front running losses to users of Ethereum. And they're going to define this for you a little bit. They say toxic MEV is the loss incurred to users by miners front running or censoring their transactions, for example, sandwich attacks. The hallmark of toxic MEV is miners reordering user transactions for their own profit. So we've talked about miner extractable value quite a few times on this channel going back many, many months. But basically what happens is when you have a fee market, the miners get to choose how to prioritize transactions. And the second miners or validators can choose how to prioritize transactions, that kind of means they can order them however they want. So, of course, like we've also talked about many times in these channels, greed seems to rule all, and they will go ahead and order those transactions in a manner such that they put their own transaction or a transaction of someone who's paying them for the right to do so in front of your transaction. Then they'll put your transaction in the middle. Then they'll put another of their own transactions on the end so that they can capitalize on whatever position you're taking, whatever transaction you're making. There's some way for them to front run that transaction. If they see that your transaction, for example, is going to raise the price of a certain asset in a certain exchange or liquidity pool or whatever, they're going to go ahead and front run that with their own transaction, let you make your transaction, and then execute a second transaction of their own right after yours so that they make a bunch of money and you, the sandwich transaction, lose a bunch of money. And the count right now for the last hour as I film this is $23,629 of user losses due to front running in Ethereum. When I looked about an hour ago for the previous hour count, it showed over 30,000. So in 1 hour, miners managed to extract $30,000 from Ethereum users through this front running. You could argue that this is not without precedent in modern finance. We have applications like Robinhood. We have the Robinhood platform where you get to trade without paying those gigantic fees that you traditionally would for trading securities. And the reason that you can execute these trades without paying the traditional fees is that Robinhood is allowing someone to front run your transactions. That's exactly why Robinhood is able to allow you to trade without paying the giant fees. And People largely seem to realize that at this point. I think in the early days of Robinhood, I'm not sure that people really understood what was going on, why they were able to trade without paying the big fees. But I think now a lot of people, anybody who's sort of inquired about it, has figured out that that's why you're able to trade without the fees on Robinhood. But there's a key distinction here, and that's that Robinhood is cheaper than the alternative to trade on, whereas Ethereum is not. In Ethereum, you're paying giant fees and you're getting front run. This is a cancer. This is a cancer in Ethereum that will just grow and grow and grow as users start to understand what's happening. When they realize, hey, I'm paying premium transaction fees to execute transactions on the Ethereum blockchain, and I'm getting front run. This is very different. This is like you're trading equities with some kind of a traditional brokerage platform that's charging you top dollar, and they're doing the Robinhood thing and front running your transactions. Nobody would choose that. They would either choose the Robinhood type platform and trade very cheaply but get front run, or they would choose the traditional type platforms. They would pay normal fees and not get front run. Unfortunately for Ethereum, there are alternatives to that blockchain where you get the best of both worlds. You don't get front run and you pay much lower fees. This is going knowledge of this these alternatives out there is going to spread like rust throughout the users of Ethereum over time. Right now, it's not many people using Ethereum who actually understand what miner extractable value is or have even seen the acronym MEV. But understanding of what that represents will spread like rust through the base of Ethereum users. They're already mad about the fees they're paying. Everybody who's ever used Ethereum is mad about Ethereum fees. It's been that way for a long time. Everybody realizes they're paying these extremely high fees. Every day that goes by that these minor extractable values are extracted from those same users who are already mad about the fees they're paying, it's going to eat away at the user base's confidence in Ethereum as the best choice. How can it be the best network to use when we have these ills of lack of scalability? The fees are too high. And then on top of that, you've got the fact that you're being front run. In Cardano, of course, we have fee determinism. We don't have this fee market. So we don't have this rampant front running where we have $23,629 being extracted. Such a polite euphemism. It's being extracted from the users, not stolen, mind you, not stolen, but extracted from the users. This doesn't happen in Cardano. It's kind of amazing how rampant mimicry is in crypto. Maybe we should just go ahead and call it plagiarism. Maybe we can say that plagiarism is actually rampant in crypto. I've always wondered if this is connected to the history of crypto involving so many hard forks, basically just cloning of successful projects. We had our very first altcoin. Litecoin was just, you know, essentially a clone of Bitcoin where the total supply of the coin was changed. And it's been very successful. It was very successful as the first altcoin. And of course that's happened, countless times since Litecoin. We've had, a million forks of a million coins basically. But that theme seems to have carried over in a lot of different ways also in crypto. And I don't know if it's this history of hard forks and coins that are only slightly altered actually gaining, decent substantial amounts of value, or if it's just a facet of so much of crypto being about coding and the amount of, replication of code that happens in the coding world. But there's definitely this rampant copying of all kinds of things in crypto. Here's a good example of this, posted by Indigo today. So you can see here's Indigo's here's a piece, I believe, of Indigo's website. Here's a page from Indigo's website. They've got this nice graphic over here, and Indigo says, nice website. And they point to the website of this other, I believe, synthetic platform. Obviously, very, very similar graphic. Very easy to say that maybe that was inspired by this. Of course, we saw a much larger scale example of exactly this kind of thing a couple of years ago when people made accusations that entire sections of the Tron white paper were copied wholesale from different things put out by Ethereum. And the attitude of Tron's founder, Justin Sun, to those accusations seemed to basically be who cares. And Tron as a crypto asset is still around, so maybe he had a good point. Maybe no one did care. This theme around no one seeming to care about the extreme mimicry, copying, or maybe even plagiarism in crypto seemed to manifest most strongly in NFTs. It's no secret that Bored Ape Yacht Club has been phenomenally successful, and since their success, there have been a huge number of, I don't know if we can say clones, but really clones. They might have slightly different traits. The apes or monkeys might look slightly different, but it seems like there's a very high level of inspiration. And these types of ape or NFT PFP collections seem to exist on every single blockchain, and a lot of them have been pretty successful. So, despite whatever lack of novelty there seems to be still a large amount of demand for these ape or monkey NFT collections, and nobody seemed to care. People would talk about it. They'd say, "Great, another bake clone," but people would still mint them like crazy. And now we've got a huge number of these ape and monkey PFP NFT collections, and nobody seemed to care until recently. This article just came out. Bored Apes creator sues conceptual artist for copying its NFTs. I think some people probably said this and they were like, "Oh, finally this is happening. Maybe this will slow down the onslaught of monkey and ape PFP collections." But actually, when you dig into it, you find out that they are suing Ryder Rips. Ryder Rips is the artist, conceptual artist, whatever he is, who is sort of profiled in that video on the accusations being made toward Bored Ape Yacht Clubs about fascist symbolism or things that might have resembled fascist symbolism in their PFP collection. We did a whole episode sort of analyzing those claims and the backgrounds of the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT collection. Their backgrounds don't seem consistent with anybody who would be embracing that kind of symbolism for the underlying meaning of the symbolism. And the accusations kind of conceded that their sort of theory was that this was all part of some kind of like grand troll on the entire crypto space. But whatever it is, Ryder Rips seem to be all tied up in all those accusations, and Ryder Rips also had his own sort of Bored Ape Yacht Club inspired ape NFT series. So of course, Bored Ape Yacht Club not super stoked about all these accusations around the fascist symbolism. They are now suing Ryder Rips, even though Ryder Rips may be just one of many Bored Ape Yacht Club inspired NFT collections. Ryder Rips is the one they're actually suing. Of course, Ryder Rips is responding that his NFT collection was a protest against and parody of Bored Ape Yacht Club. But still, it seems that in crypto, largely, or at least some big chunk of crypto, of the crypto consciousness, people still don't seem to care too much about copying or mimicry or maybe even plagiarism unless they have some other bone to pick with you. More good news in our march toward the Vasil Hard Fork Combinator event. IOHK today said, "We're delighted to report that in the last few minutes, we have submitted an update proposal to hard fork the Cardano testnet and commence the countdown for the Vasil mainnet upgrade. With over 75% of testnet blocks being created by the new Vasil node 1.35.0, that means they achieved 75%. Last time we checked in yesterday, they were at 50%. We now have a good chain density to proceed safely, thanks to all the Cardano SPOs who continue to support the testnet. Once the changes have taken effect after the start of Epic 215 at 2020 UTC on the 3rd of July, the Cardano testnet will start to enjoy the new Vasil enhancements and capabilities. That's going to be interesting. Look for that on the 3rd of July. It's going to take the dApp developers a while to figure out how to best leverage these new tools provided by the Vasil upgrade. But it'll be interesting after the 3rd of July to hear what people are saying about this new access to things like reference inputs. I think that the developers have all been looking forward to this for a long time. We've been talking about it for, it seems like, all of 2022, and now it'll finally be here. So it'll be interesting to hear hear what they have to say once they finally have access to these tools. Finally, Sam Bankman-Fried has been coming up a lot lately. You remember we just discussed how Bankman-Fried and FTX kind of had this rescue plan for BlockFi, but because of the way bankruptcies would work, it was going to wipe out all the shareholders of BlockFi, including Morgan Creek Digital. And so Morgan Creek was trying to come up with their own sort of rescue plan, which would not involve their equity being wiped out. But Sam Bankman-Fried is in Forbes now. There's a Forbes article, and they ran with some crypto exchanges are already secretly insolvent, according to Sam Bankman-Fried. Of course, when you see this, a lot of people are going to get afraid that he's talking about like Coinbase and Kraken and Binance. That's not at all what's going on here. So in this article, if you actually get into the article, he says there are some third tier exchanges that are already secretly insolvent. So when I think about first tier exchanges, I think about those three: Coinbase, Kraken, Binance. When I think about second tier exchanges, I don't even really know where to go with that. I mean, in the past, I might have said like Bitfinex, but then when we say third tier, I mean, I guess the problem is I don't actually use any second or third tier exchanges anymore. I mean, I guess you'd say like, beyond Bitfinex, we start getting into some pretty obscure names. They try to name a few in this article. Never heard of AAX, Billance, and Hotbit. You aren't alone, but like Coinbase, they trade Bitcoin, and then they sort of go into a little explanation of what some of these exchanges do. They mention KuCoin, they mention Bitmart, they mention Bitfinex, but it's a little bit of alarmist journalism, I think, when they run with a title like this. Some exchanges are already secretly insolvent, and really they're talking about exchanges you've never heard of. What I think is really notable here, though, is that crypto is so much on the minds of the regular financial press that when they want to run kind of a sensationalist article like this, it's about crypto. In the last bear market, it was amusing when crypto showed up in a publication like Forbes at all. And now it's kind of not surprising to me that they're running this type of article. And look, I mean, this is a pretty big article. This is sort of like, the equivalent back in the old days of like a 2-page spread here. And, we've got Sam Bankman-Fried on the cover of Forbes. This is how big crypto's gotten. Now, when Forbes wants to run kind of a sensationalist, alarmist article, it's not on the traditional finance scene necessarily. It can also be on crypto now. I think this is just a sign of our space getting bigger and bigger and starting to consume parts of what were previously reserved for the traditional finance space. I think this is actually a good sign. I hope you're having a great week, and I will talk to you tomorrow.